a review of last night's first ever head-to-head uh, two-person leaders debate. Yeah, it is actually the first ever one we've had. We've had several leaders debates. They've never actually moved the electoral needle at all, apart from I think the first time in 2010 when Clegg got a bit of a boost, but then fell flat again. But yeah, otherwise they've never really moved the needle. But this one won't either, because it was awful. So Boris. Where do we start with Boris? Um, his insistence on repeating the same line over and over and over and over again. And I understand it is a line you want to hammer home, it's a political talking point, but there is a limit, and it just becomes so tedious. And even the moderator was like, "Yeah, we've heard you. Shut up. Move on." It's so boring. Even towards the end, when they had the quick fire questions, and they were trying to ask the question to give some sort of levity to the end of the debate, um, Corbyn gave a literary answer, A Christmas Carol, which was somewhat tongue in cheek. And Boris went, "I'm going to give him a copy of my Brexit deal." Oh, for goodness sake. Stop it. Just stop. It's so tedious. The other thing Boris fell down on pretty hard was the question about trust. The fact that the audience laughed at him when he when he said that they could trust him, it says a lot. And the audience laughed at both of them, to be completely clear. This was an audience, I think, that is sick to death of both of them. And I think that's true of most people in the country. You speak to most people in the electorate, you go out and about and you speak to a lot of people, no one is particularly enthusiastic for either of them. I did at first think that there would be some enthusiasm for Boris because it's the first time people have had to vote for him, and I think there is a bit of that, but it's very tepid. There isn't really the enthusiasm for either side of this, and I wonder how that's going to play out come the election. Anyway, um, Boris had to be sort of cajoled into giving a pledge, which wasn't even really a pledge. It was a sort of murmured affirmative noise, um, to try and reduce the nonsense in the debate, try and calm the discussion down. It was very notable that Corbyn sort of jumped at it, and Boris kind of went, "Meh, maybe," and yeah, it didn't look very good. Um, Corbyn. Let's look at Corbyn. Couple of major things. First, I think he played his trump card too early. The redacted NHS negotiations that he liked to show, which I have a problem with, by the way, because he said, in summary, they want to give the Americans full market access. How do you know that when you literally just said every line in this document is redacted? So unless there's something you could see on screen, which I obviously can't, um, that doesn't add up. Both things cannot be true. It doesn't make sense. Um, he also should have played that when the topic of the NHS came up. He played it during the Brexit discussion. I understand why he played that during the Brexit discussion, but I actually think he had a more effective attack line on Brexit, which got lost because he tried to play the NHS card way too early, and he seemed to sort of run out of steam after that. The line I think he could have gotten somewhere with was directly combating Boris's "Get Brexit Done" line by saying, "Well, hang on, we're going to get into trade negotiations for 7 odd years with the US and trade negotiations for a Canada Plus style deal for 7 odd years with the EU." Yes, I think that's a bit, it's bunk. Even Remain-minded trade experts are saying, well, we're starting from a position of regulatory alignment and parity, so it won't take that long because we haven't got to make a lot of concessions. It's just the wranglings over where we go from here. But still, it's not going to be the easiest deal in history, as Boris is making it out to be, but it's not going to be 7 years either. But that is a better line for Corbyn to go on than the NHS thing, I think, because it directly combats Boris's own narrative. Um, As for other things. I think Corbyn did very well talking about the NHS. Um, when we got to the topic of the NHS and talking about cuts and talking about staff overwork, I thought Corbyn did well talking about the royal family when that came up, and Boris looked a bit out of touch there. Um, no surprises there. I do think Corbyn fell down quite hard when he refused to answer the question put to him over and over and over again about what side he's going to fall on when it comes to a second referendum on Brexit, where he's going to end up with the SNP, because he's given multiple different answers about the Scottish referendum in the past couple of weeks. They don't add up. They can't all be true. I don't trust what he has to say about a Scottish referendum at all. If you are voting for Labour expecting not to get a Scottish referendum, I think you're extremely misguided. Um, the point about the Brexit referendum, though, is fair, and he never once mentioned the special Labour conference where the party will decide the position on Brexit. That disappeared completely from that debate. No word of it at all. He just said, we will put it to a referendum and the people can decide. Never once did he mention where the party is going to go or how the party is going to make a decision on where it's going to go. It didn't feel like a very well thought through policy. It didn't when it came up, even with the special conference, because you're going to be campaigning against potentially your own deal, which seems a bit backwards. Um, but yeah, I think that was a bit of a weakness for Corbyn, and I've heard this on reaction on the radio from Labour supporters saying, "Hang on, I'm a Leaver. This is pretty rubbish, actually. Come down one side or the other and stop being ridiculous." And it does give, the sort of Lib Dem slash Labour Remainer wing quite a bit of ammunition against Corbyn as well. But yeah, overall, I think the debate was a bit of a waste of time. I think the needle hasn't really moved at all. Um, I think we have a more negative view of both of them, if that makes any sense. I think we're about level pegging, and we were level pegging before on approval, and it's just gone down for both of them. That's how I see it. I think it's a bit of a mess. Um, we'll have to see what happens in future debates, I guess. Let me know what you think. Leave a comment, leave a reply, like, subscribe, blah, 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 shill, shill, shill. Thanks. Ta-ra.